Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, equipment being used to help build a new home for a veteran was stolen in Lincoln County. Plus more legal troubles, no problem for former President Donald Trump in terms of voter support.
And the AC gets a workout this week with a stretch of summer heat. Your full forecast coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Olivia Calfee. Police are looking for some thieves who stole nearly $2,000 worth of tools from a Habitat for Humanity house. The house is being built for a war veteran in Lincoln County. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to the veteran's father who owned many of the tools about the setback in construction.
Sometime after work was done on the home on August the 11th, the thieves simply walked up to a realtor's box that was on this doorknob right here. They broke open that box. They used the key, opened the door, went inside, and were able to make off with the power tools.
All these tools were personally owned by myself and my two sons that have been working on the house, and that's all volunteer.
Jerry Bailey and others are working to build a new home through Habitat for Humanity for his son, an Iraqi war veteran.
And they just had frustration after frustration about getting delays.
They've worked on the house since October of last year.
And then we came in Wednesday afternoon to work. Then we noticed all of our hand tools, nail guns, hammers, supplies, air compressor, things like that were packed off.
The thieves left behind muddy footprints and the key used to open the door and the lockbox they broke. The tools are worth almost $2,000, but others have stepped in to replace most of what was lost.
We're just trying to look at it, that it's life goes on, and we're praying for the whoever it was, that someday they'll feel guilty enough to come back and admit it.
Stanford police are investigating. They tell me that they are not aware of any new leads over the past couple of days. In Lincoln County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Thank you, Phil. People can donate to Habitat for Humanity causes, and in Lincoln County, organizers say they are hopeful they can buy a trailer to securely store tools during their non-working hours.
Well, the big story into this evening, the heat does continue. Here's a live look right now from the London Corbin Airport. We are dry under some blue sky, but that temperature is toasty. Current temperature right now at 87 degrees. Once you factor in that dew point, though, it feels like the middle 90s over at the airport right now. Most of us in the upper 80s to lower 90s right now. 90 for Irvin, also in Hazard and Harlan. 86 in Williamsburg, 87 for London and Middlesboro. Also 87 for Jackson and Pikeville at this hour. But again, once you factor in that dew point, it feels like the middle to upper 90s, even the lower 100s in some places. As we go into the rest of your work week, that muggy meter is going to continue. So again, the heat index is going to be a problem for several days this week. Into tonight, though, we do stay dry under a partly cloudy sky. Those temperatures falling into the middle to upper 70s. We fall into the upper 60s and lower 70s as you wake up on Tuesday. But again, more heat on the way on Tuesday and beyond. All those details coming up in just a few minutes. Olivia?
Cameron, thank you. Hillary is making its way through the southwestern U.S. as a post-tropical cyclone. The storm continues to bring life-threatening flooding and wind gusts to the area. Flooding, mudslides, and trapped vehicles have been reported across counties in California. 25 million people from Southern California to northern Idaho are in a flood watch. Hillary is the first tropical storm to hit Southern California in 84 years.
Yeah, as a native San Diegan, I can tell you I've never lived through anything quite like this. And what we're telling them is thank you. You know, we had the opportunity with this natural disaster. You know, Southern California is very familiar with natural disasters, things like earthquakes and wildfires that we don't get a lot of advance notice with. In this case, we had multiple days to plan and to prepare. And the message today is gratitude.
As the storm continues heading north, parts of Oregon and Idaho could see up to 5 inches of rain. Today, President Biden and the First Lady are traveling to Maui to get a first-hand look at the devastation and loss caused by the deadliest wildfire in a century. Their visit comes as search for victims continues, with at least 114 people now confirmed dead. The President and First Lady are preparing to visit families impacted by the deadly wildfires. The Biden administration has approved nearly $8 million in assistance so far. Republican presidential candidates are getting ready to square off on Wednesday in their first debate of the primary season. The biggest name in the GOP race says he will not be joining them in Milwaukee on Wednesday. CBS's Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
Former President Donald Trump is pulling away from his 2024 Republican challengers in the polls and in person. Trump posted on social media, new CBS poll just out has me leading the field by legendary numbers. I will therefore not be doing the debates.
I have no problem with him skipping the first couple of debates. He's been on that debate stage plenty of times. He's been in the White House for 4 years. This is my chance to introduce myself to the country.
Vivek Ramaswamy is one of at least 7 candidates the RNC says has qualified for this first debate. Several others claim they've hit the thresholds. Trump's absence may be an opening to reach voters.
The good news is you're there and you'll be able to fire away with your vision and tell people in an unfiltered way why you do a good job as being the next president of the United States.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is trailing Trump by 46 points in the latest CBS News poll. Former President Trump may be angling for some debate counter programming with an interview he has taped. He's also expected in Georgia this week. Trump and 18 co-defendants face a Friday deadline to surrender in Atlanta on charges of trying to overturn the state's 2020 election results.
He's going to be out on bail in 4 different jurisdictions. When are we going to stop thinking that's normal?
Trump is holding a lot of sway with his supporters. 71% say they believe he tells them the truth more than their friends and family, or even their religious leaders. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
The bond for former President Trump has been set at $200,000. A 17-year-old was killed in a double shooting during an unsanctioned car meet early yesterday morning in Delaware. The incident took place at a warehouse in the city of Newcastle at around 2 a.m. Police say the 17-year-old was shot multiple times. Authorities say he was taken to a local hospital and died. Police say a 21-year-old man was shot in the foot and placed in stable condition. The identities of the 17 and 21-year-old aren't known at this time. New court documents filed by the DOJ show Texas has started to reposition a controversial floating barrier closer to the southern border. It says workers were seen moving a concrete anchor in the Rio Grande River. This comes days after a separate court filing claimed 80% of the border buoys were in Mexico territory. Attorneys for the DOJ say they had no advance notice work would be done on the floating barrier. An injunction hearing is set for tomorrow. 3 people are dead after a Listeria outbreak at a restaurant in Tacoma, Washington. The state health department says another 6 people were hospitalized after drinking a milkshake from the location. Investigators say they used genetic fingerprinting to link the bacteria that made people sick to the shake machine being used. Officials say Listeria usually does not make people seriously ill, but it can be dangerous for certain at-risk groups. If you have to spend time outside this week, health experts warn there are steps you can take to protect yourself outdoors. Sweating often holds a bad reputation. Even though it is not necessarily pleasant, it is essential to helping our bodies endure warmer temperatures, whether we like the sweat or not. Sweat consists mainly of water, and its main function is to keep the body cool. In periods of warmth, heat-related illnesses are more likely as well.
Stay hydrated. That's most important, is making sure you're drinking more than you normally would. Staying in the air conditioning as much as you possibly can, taking cool showers to help cool down. Anything you can do to help yourself beat the heat is important these days.
While sweat might not have the best reputation, anything you can do to keep your body cool during this warm week will be essential. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, we are on pace to see a record number of data breaches this year. We will have some steps you can take if your information is compromised.
Plus, we are tracking more 90s in the forecast. Those details coming up after this break.
WYMT